Hey everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we'll learn how to create 3D text effect using HTML and CSS so that you can create your own eye-catching 3D text effect. So let's get started. Here we have a div element with the class attribute set to stage. Next, we have a div element with a class attribute set to layer. And this is a repeated div element with the class attribute set to layer. Now let's hit CSS. Let's style the body element. Here mean height is set to 450 pixel, height is set to 100 VH, margin is set to 0 so that we remove default margin, and here we apply a radial gradient background to the body so that it creates a colorful background effect. Next, we'll use font from Google Fonts. Here we import system for importing web fonts from Google Fonts. And here specify for the text is set to PO, roboto for the text is set to CSS, and the caution script is set to exclamation mark. Now let's style the stage container. Here we set the height of the stage container to 300 pixel, width is set to 500 pixel, margin is set to auto so that it center the stage container horizontally, position is set to absolute, top, right, button, left is set to 0, and the perspective is set to 9999 pixel. Transform style is set to preserve 3D. Now let's style the layer element. Here width is set to 100%, height is set to 100%, position is set to absolute. So we specify that each layer element will be positioned absolutely. Transform style is set to preserve 3D that indicates that the 3D transformation applied to this layer element. Animation is set to animate 5-second linear infinite alternate ease in out. Animation field mode is set to forwards. And transform is set to rotate y 40 degree. So they rotate the element around the y-axis by 40 degree. And rotate x is set to 33 degrees. So they rotate the elements around the x-axis by 33 degree. And translate z is set to 0. So they translate the element along the z-axis by 0 units. Now let's set after shadow element. Here we set the font properties for the content. 150 pixel specify the font size as 150 pixel, and 0.65 is define the line height of the font size. And here we specify a list of font families to be used for the text. And here, if one font is unavailable, the browser will attempt to use the next one in the list. Here we set the content of the shadow element. It displays the text pure, followed by line break and then CSS. White space is set to pre. So this property defines how white space inside the shadow element is handled. Text align is set to center. Height is set to 100%. Width is set to 100%. Position is set to absolute. Top is set to 50 pixel. So replace the shadow element 50 pixel from the top. Color is set to white smoke, which is a shade of white or light gray. Letter spacing is set to -2 pixel. And here we apply a text shadow. Here 4 pixel is the horizontal offset of the shadow, and 0 is the vertical offset, and 10 pixel is the blur radius of the shadow. And here we set the RGBA. Now let's target the first layer element inside the staged container. Here we apply a 3D transformation using transform to translate is set to translate z 0 pixel, which means that this layer is not translate along the z axis. Now let's target the second layer. Here transform is set to translate Z minus 1.5 pixel, which translate the layer 1.5 pixel backward. Now let's target the third element. Here transform is set to translate Z minus 3 pixel, which translate the layer 3 pixel backward along the negative Z axis. And let's come to fourth layer. Here transform is set to translate Z minus 4.5 pixel, which translate the layer 4.5 pixel backward. Next, in the fifth layer, here we set the transform to translate Z minus 6 pixel, which translates the 6th layer backward. Next, in the 6th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 7.5 pixel, and in the 7th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 9 pixel, which translates the layer 9 pixel backward along the negative Z axis. And in the 8th layer element, here we set the transform to translate Z minus 10.5 pixel, and in the 9th layer element, here we set the transform to translate Z minus 12 pixel, and the 10th layer element, here we set the transform to translate Z minus 13.5 pixel, and in the 11th layer we set the transform to translate Z minus 15 pixel, in the 12th layer we set the transform to translate Z minus 16.5 pixel, which translate the layer 16.5 pixel backward along the negative Z axis. In the 13th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 18 pixel. In the 14th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 19.5 pixel. And in the 15th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 21 pixel. In the 16th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 22.5 pixel. In the 17th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 24 pixel. In the 18th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 25.5 pixel. In the 19th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 27 pixel. And the last, the 20th layer, we set the transform to translate Z minus 28.5 pixel. Now let's target the layer element starting from the 10th element and beyond. Here we apply a text stroke effect using WebKit text stroke. The text stroke is just 3 pixel wide and has a color of RGBA, which is a semi-transparent black color. Now let's target the layer element starting from the 11th element. apply a larger text stroke effect using WebKit text stroke. The text stroke is 15 pixels wide and has a color of Dodger blue, which is a bright blue color. And here we apply a text shadow effect. A shadow 6 pixels to the right and 6 pixels below to the text with a dark blue, and a shadow of 5 pixels to the right and 5 pixels below the text with a color of a dark blue. And a shadow directly below the text horizontally and 6 pixels below the text with a color of darker blue. Now let's target the layer element starting from 12th element and beyond elements. Here we apply a text stroke effect using WebKit text stroke. Here the text stroke is 15 pixels wide and has a color of which is a blue color. Next we target the layer element inside the stage container. Here we apply a text stroke effect using WebKit text stroke. The text stroke is 17 pixels wide and has a color of RGB, which is a very light and transparent gray color. Now let's target the layer element inside the stage container. Here we set the color to white and also we set the text shadow to none. Now let's set keyframe. Here we set the 100% to transform. Rotate Y -40 degree. So we rotate around the Y axis and -40 to 43 degree around the X axis. So that's it for today's video. If you found this video helpful in understanding how to create eye-catching 3D text effect, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more web development tutorials.